It was inevitably downhill for Chelsea as soon as they reached the top of the world. The thrilling Club World Cup final victory over Paris Saint Germain gave co-owner Behdad Eghbali and fellow Blues bosses reason to believe their model could work. Sign up for the Chelsea newsletter. Thank you. It didn't stay sweet between Todd Boehly, left, and Enzo Maresca, middle right, for longCredit, PA. EMaresca lifts the Club World Cup trophy after a brilliant win over PSG in JulyCredit, Getty. That you could buy and sell players like shares on the stock market and still build a young, hungry squad that would deliver both the Premier League and Champions League. But at the same time, the CWC triumph made Maresca think he had earned the right to ask the owners to adapt that model. To give him more power to shape a squad capable of challenging for the big trophies, rather than a glorified exhibition. It has taken less than 6 months to prove both Maresca and his bosses were deluded. And to make Chelsea head coach look even more like the impossible job. Read more. The Roman Abramovich regime was brutal enough, with 12 permanent managers and 3 interims in 19 years. Maresca, despite lasting less than 19 months, is the longest-serving chief under the current regime. Whoever replaces the Italian will be the 5th person placed in charge by owners Blueco since their May 2022 takeover. Whatever that he said, she said, of the breakdown in relations between Maresca and his superiors, the churn of coaches on its own suggests they are not the problem. Most read in football. Best online casinos. Top sites in the UK. At the same time, the Italian knew what he was getting into. Only Thomas Tuchel, the man in place when Blueco came in, can claim not to have signed up to the new regime's philosophy. Graham Potter and Mauricio Pochettino were hired, like Maresca, on the basis they would work within the constraints set by the club's recruitment policy. The Italian's camp claims red lines, agreed when he joined Chelsea in June 2024, were crossed. Tensions about transfer policy and interference from above occur at every big club, and every small one for that matter. For more than 2 decades, Chelsea's internal rows have played out in public, partly due to the fiery personality of managers like José Mourinho and Antonio Conte, and partly due to Abramovich's ruthlessness. If you won trophies, you stayed. If you lost too many matches, you were fired. Just ask poor old Roberto Di Matteo, who won the 2012 Champions League as interim Blues boss, was given the job permanently and then sacked, within 8 months. Roberto Di Matteo is proof that even winning the Champions League will not buy you time credit. Getty. Antonio Conte seems like just another name in a long line of managers at Chelsea Credit. Getty. José Mourinho might be the most popular and successful Chelsea manager this millennium. Credit. Times Newspapers Limited. Maresca's spectacular fall from grace is just the latest installment of the Stamford Bridge soap opera. And Eghbali, as the main man among the investors, is in some ways the new Abramovich. But the nature of Chelsea Football Club has undeniably changed. Abramovich invested more than £2 billion to give Chelsea the most successful period in their history. His motives for doing so were complicated and related to the internal politics of Vladimir Putin's Russia. Under the billionaire, the Blues pioneered the philosophy of recruiting young talent from around the world, either to promote to the first team or to sell on for a profit. But on-field success was the primary object of Abramovich's generosity. Chelsea was effectively a charity. Under the current unstable alliance of private equity investors, the emphasis is different. Potential replacements for Maresca. Here is a look at the potential candidates to replace Enzo Maresca in Chelsea's dugout. Liam Rossinier, like Maresca, would arrive at Chelsea without any Premier League managerial experience. He is currently impressing at Strasbourg in Ligue 1 with the French side battling for a European spot. Rossinier would be a fairly simple hire for the Blues, considering Clearlake also own the Alsace outfit. Cesc Fabregas. The former Chelsea midfielder has built himself a solid reputation in the dugout since taking charge of Como in 1907. The Spaniard led the club to promotion from Serie B to the top flight of Italian football for the first time in 21 years. Cesc Fabregas now has Como pushing for European qualification, and he is viewed as one of the most promising managers in the top leagues. Xavi has been out of football management since being sacked by Barcelona in 2024. However, he is still highly regarded, having led the La Liga Giants to a league and Spanish Super Cup double in 2023 despite financial constraints. Chelsea would be free to talk to Xavi over a deal and there would be no compensation to be paid. Oliver Glasner has been one of the most impressive managers in the Premier League since his arrival at Crystal Palace in 2024. He has led the Eagles to FA Cup and Community Shield glory in his short time in South London. The Austrian has previously been tipped for the top job at Manchester United should Ruben Amorim be sacked. Marco Silva. A move for Marco Silva could prove difficult due to the Portuguese boss currently in charge of West London rivals Fulham. The former Hull City and Everton manager has brought the Cottagers back to the Prem and helped solidify their spot. Silva has long been backed for a chance at a top job and Chelsea could represent a decent opportunity. Andoni Iraola. Bournemouth have just dealt with a summer of losing some of their best players like Dean Huijsen and Ilya Zabarny. They could now face the prospect of seeing their Basque boss walk out on the club if Chelsea come calling. Andoni Iraola led the Cherries to a 9th-place finish in his first season in the Prem and earned plenty of plaudits in doing so. John Terry. Now, John Terry does not have any managerial experience but would certainly be the romantic choice. Chelsea have previously given chances to Frank Lampard in the dugout and could opt to do the same with Terry. Terry has some experience in coaching, having previously held assistant roles at Aston Villa and Leicester City. Bonus, the special one. If they get desperate, there is also the option of making a move for the old reliable José Mourinho. The iconic manager is currently leading Benfica in his homeland but could be tempted by a third stint in charge of the Blues. He previously won 3 Prem titles, 3 League Cups and an FA Cup during his previous 2 spells in charge. Maresca won the Conference League and the Club World Cup during his time at the longCredit. Getty. EMaresca may be the preferred successor to Pep Guardiola credit. EPA. Maresca would have some sympathy with fans and other critics who believe Blueco is primarily a player trading company which just happens to put out football teams under the names Chelsea and Strasbourg. The Italian feels he was entitled to more respect from Eghbali and others for being the first head coach to give the project credibility. A return to the Champions League, a Conference League victory and triumph in the revamped Club World Cup, all in his debut season, made it look like he and his bosses knew what they were doing. When results began to turn last month, fans attacked both the head coach and the Blues' top-heavy football department. Some pinned blame on co-sporting directors Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart, and to a lesser extent, recruitment chiefs Sam Jewell and Joe Shields, for spending more than £1 billion on a squad whose quality, depth and experience were still not high enough. Others, including his bosses, felt that Maresca was not making the most of what he had been given. There is truth in both views, but when Maresca started using press conferences to wind up his bosses, there was only going to be one outcome, which the Italian knew all too well. Recommended stories. Eghbali and company would rather change their head coach than their philosophy. Maresca, like Tuchel before him, made his excuses and left. The next Chelsea boss will sign up to the same deal. Fans will fear a similar outcome.